Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. With me today is Kristen Efurd, Verification Director, and Megan Tymesko, Senior Manager, Partner Engagement. And both are with the Soil and Climate Initiative, which is a holistic farm-to-shelf regenerative agriculture transition program. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks, Sarah. It's really great to have. Thank you for having us on here.
Yeah, thank you.
For those of you that are tuning in, we thank you for being here as well. And if you have any questions for our guests, feel free to post those there in the chat area on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're joining us from social media, simply post your questions directly in those channels. So Megan, let's start by having you tell us about the Soil and Climate Initiative. What is it all about?
Well, thanks so much. Soil and Climate Initiative, we very commonly go by SCI. So if you hear those acronyms, that's definitely who we are. We call ourselves a farmer first holistic nonprofit program, and we engage the entire supply chain to scale the transition to regenerative agriculture. And to make this happen, we believe strongly that supporting farmers in a way that truly works for them is really what's needed. We offer practical science-based tools and a rigorous outcome measurement framework centered around our third-party back verification standard that you just mentioned. And it's all designed to promote soil health, strengthen farm resilience, and really grow the regenerative marketplace. Just currently, we have about over 165 farms in our program and over 350,000 acres. So it's growing rapidly, and we're really excited about that. And because we take this whole systems approach to our programs, we also offer a range of services to brands and foundations and landowners and investors who really want to support this transition and invest in farmers in a way that works for the farmers the best way. Our programs include supply chain development, farm reporting, messaging, help for their consumers, opportunities for brands to enroll their farmers into our program to help them on this transition. And there's options for third-party verification, which helps unlock access in this growing regenerative marketplace as well.
So you talk about the marketplace being growing, and I know you're focused on transitioning agriculture acres to regenerative management. Where overall would you say agriculture is right now when it comes to the regenerative movement? Are we just on the initial cusp of it, or are we kind of, where are we at? Put that in perspective for us, if you would, please.
Yeah, and I think Kristen has a little more history in it too, and so feel free to jump in. But it's like it was a wild, wild west, but I think the awareness and the investment is definitely increasing, especially in this last year. Conferences we've been to, and especially brands and farmers that are coming to us really interested in what is this? I want to learn more about this. I'm hearing more about regenerative agriculture. And so definitely a bigger interest this year we've seen, but there's still a long way to go in terms of adopting regenerative agriculture at scale to make it successful in the long term. So to really move the needle on regenerative agriculture, we think at SCI, we need a few things as far as support systems to reduce the risk for farmers taking on new practices on their farm. So technical assistance, financial support, peer-to-peer networks and mentorship so they can learn from each other. A strong market alignment, we think, where buyers and consumers are also understanding what regenerative agriculture is and truly invested in the value of it, and also growing those supply chain connections. So to create that financial sustainability and longevity, that supply chain connection really needs to get fully supported to really grow at scale and be successful. So without bridging these gaps, I think the regenerative agriculture, it's not going to be sustainable unless we kind of have all these things into place. So that's where SCI, since we support the whole system of the supply chain, we think these programs will get to that point that we want to see at scale with everybody's support.
So when we talk regenerative ag, is it a certain size of operation, or is it something that can go across, commercial operations as well as smaller scale operations? How does that all fit together?
I think, yeah, Kristen, you want to see from the farm perspective?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great question. And I think a lot of times when people think about regenerative agriculture, it is kind of the more small scale, small farm, like old McDonald's farm that kind of pops into people's head. But I mean, this really can be adopted at large commercial operations. And in fact, there's some strategic size implications that they have that actually can make it successful and easily adoptable for large scale operations. I think, a farm like mine, I am a small scale regenerative farmer. My partner and I have 30 acres, so we are smaller in the conventional mindset, but we do pasture poultry and rotationally grazed sheep. And we use these principles and these are regenerative pillars that, SCI has developed. We use them on a daily basis on our farm. And then like I said, it can scale to large operations. It's just a different way that you use the data and a different way that you use the observations that make them successful.
There's a lot of, well, I was just going to jump in there and say that there's a lot of times where, say if a brand comes in our program and they want to support and enroll their farmers that they source from, they might start with like a small acreage, like a pilot on the farm to kind of test this out, try new practices. And then most of the time over the years, they kind of increase their acreage over time. So.
And I will say, I think that's the beauty of enrollment at SCI. A lot of regenerative programs out there are centered around whole farm enrollment. And we allow farmers and brands to kind of enroll at scales that make sense for them. So if a farmer wants to enroll 400 acres of his 1,000 that he farms, that's okay, because that is the starting point in which he is comfortable in entering in this journey. And we're happy to meet him where he's at with that.
So what are some of the measurable improvements that farmers stand to gain when it comes to the adoption of regen practices? Kristen, you want to take that?
Yeah, it is exciting. There are quite a few things you can see from your soil perspective, your operational benefits. And, we as SCI have specific metrics that we help measure for the farms and give that data back to them. So, first, the soil health tracking. We conduct comprehensive testing to measure organic matter and soil carbon through our required lab testing. We also track microbial activity through our PLFA testing, which kind of gives you the balance of fungi to bacterial ratios in the soil and basically how the microbial communities are developed and interacting and working with each other. Then we also do field testing. So we have, water infiltration tests and compaction tests and slake testing that we do yearly with the farmers so that they get a full comprehensive understanding of how their soils are performing, and then, work with practices that can help increase soil performance and soil sustainability. And then the operational benefits, our verification standard requires farmers to document reductions in synthetic fertilizer and pesticide use on a per crop acre basis, with improvements coming over time. And so as soil health improves, many farmers often find they can reduce these synthetic inputs or these input costs while also maintaining productivity. And so our transition services program, we help farmers across the technical support and connecting them with peer networks in order to really make sure that the practices that they've selected and the pillars and the way that they're engaging with our regenerative pillars is working synergistically on their farms to actually create the improvements that they're hoping to see. And then, as I mentioned, what makes SCI different is our comprehensive science-based measurement approach. We track 25 specific continuous improvement indicators. We measure those at baseline. So when a farmer enrolls, we get a baseline set of measurements, and then we track and monitor those over 3-year cycles with our third-party verifier. So farmers, just aren't, it's not hoping for improvements or making general claims. They're actually documenting measurable progress with rigorous data that we provide back to them as part of their farm planning process, where they can actually use the data to make informed decisions and, select their practices, but also tweak those practices over time to get better at how they're working with their land and their soil types. It creates a powerful feedback loop. Farmers get actionable data to improve their management decisions, and they have credible documentation of their soil health journey. And then the verified data becomes valuable, whether they're working with lenders or buyers or just want proof that their practices are working for their own operations.
Always good to document and to be able to track and benchmark against, year to year or season to season. So then does SCI, do you work in collaboration then with others? And if so, what do those relationships look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Collaboration is the core of what we do. We believe no single organization can drive this transition alone. It takes connected, collaborative community to support farmers and build a truly regenerative marketplace. As Megan mentioned, we focus across the entire food system. So we partner with farmers, buyers, brands, nonprofits, researchers, and other certifiers, to align our efforts. And, our goal with this is to reduce the duplication for farmers rather than creating more complexity. And so, with other certification bodies, we're developing what we call mutual recognition and alignment pathways. This means farmers who are say, for instance, they already have an organic certification or they have another regenerative certification. They can streamline their entry into our verification program. We're creating crosswalk documents to show how other standards align with our pillars, and we're establishing formal equivalency agreements with compatible certification bodies. And the goal for all of it is to honor farmers' existing investments in certifications while reducing redundancy and administrative burden to them. We're also co-developing tools and metrics with research institutions. We are supporting farmer engagement and strengthening peer networks through partnerships with producer organizations and other aligned nonprofits. And then we're working with brands and buyers to create market demand for, the verified products.
So then what words of advice do you have for farmers and livestock producers that are interested in learning more about regenerative ag? How best for them to evaluate it for their specific farm or their specific operation? Kristen, you want to take that?
Yeah. My advice is pretty simple. Just start where you are and then be very patient with the journey. Regenerative agriculture, it isn't a recipe. It's not a copy and paste you can get from your neighbor. It really is a mindset shift. And every farm's path is going to be different based on soil, climate, production system, and then the farm's overall goals. So, as a farmer myself, my advice to farmers getting started is just, first connect with other producers. Find farmers in the area that are already on their already on a journey, and connect with them. Ask them how it's working. Ask them how they got started. Most guys are really happy to share and really happy to share what didn't work as much as what has worked. And then, there's just nothing more powerful than seeing the regenerative practices working on a farm that looks similar to yours. And, that's the beauty kind of our SCI producer networks, is that we do connect farmers with mentors who have already been through the transition and that can help, someone that's just beginning on their journey get started. Second, start small. Again, it is great to look at the whole farm as, the whole farm there needs to be a bigger transition, but at the same time, start small and start where you're comfortable. But the goal is just start. You don't have to transform your whole operation overnight, and nobody has to be the leading region ag expert, the next day. You pick your most challenging field. It might be one with compaction. It might be one with erosion issues. And, let's figure out what those challenges are, address some of the root causes with some regenerative practices. And then as you build confidence with these practices and, you decide what works well for you and your system, and then you can scale that up across more acreages and across your farm. One of the third pieces I like to talk about is your pain points and focusing on those pain points. Are you dealing with rising input costs? Then let's look at practices that might help reduce fertilizer cost and use. Are you struggling with drought? Let's focus on building water holding capacity, fighting pest pressure. Look at how biodiversity and integrated pest management can work. The beauty of SCI's 7 regenerative pillars is that they work synergistically. So when you select practices that address multiple pillars simultaneously, you get compounding benefits. And then, for example, like cover crops they don't just keep living roots in the ground. They also provide soil coverage. They increase diversity, and they can also reduce the need for synthetic inputs. So, these things, when done well, work together to address multiple pillars. And then when the practices work together like that, you're not just solving one problem, you're building resilience across the entire system or on the acres that you choose to start with, right?
So then it's a question for both of you, but I'll come to you first, Megan. What key takeaways do you want to leave our audience with here today?
I would say a broader takeaway that I would say to farmers and beyond, whether you're a farmer, a brand, a retailer, or even a consumer, I would say we all have a role to play in this transition, and supporting farmers, taking the risk out of trying new things and really supporting them in this transition will really unlock the benefits of regenerative getting to scale where we need it to be. So we all play the role in improving soil health, strengthening the food system that we all will benefit from, and really helps change the supply chain literally from the ground up with our farmer investment and support. So I think we all play this role, no matter if you're a consumer eating the food or you're a retailer buying the food. I think we all can pitch in.
I like that, from the ground up, changing the system. So Kristen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think key takeaways for farmers specifically is, regenerative agriculture is a proven pathway for farm resiliency and profitability. You're not just improving soil health, you are building a farming system that can weather droughts, reduce input costs, and maintain productivity over the long term. You don't have to do this alone. There's a network of people and organizations out there working in this field and can help you get started. SCI provides comprehensive support from our transition services all the way through verification. We provide technical assistance, peer networks, access to funding, and ongoing guidance through, a farmer's regenerative journey. And then again, just start where it makes sense for your operation. And then, your data does tell a story. Through SCI's verification process, those farmers will have rigorous third-party verified documentation of their soil health improvements. And then that data becomes very valuable when making farm decisions, working with lenders, buyers, and, proving the impact of their management decisions over time. And lastly, the last thing I'll say is, every acre matters. So whether you farm 100 acres or 10,000 acres, your contribution to regenerative agriculture really helps build a more resilient food system. As Megan mentioned, we're working with over 160 farms on 350,000 acres, and every farm that joins strengthens the movement and helps us create a data system that can be shared outwardly with the world to really show that this is a way of moving farming forward that works both for farmers and for us as eaters and consumers of more nutritious, better produced food.
Yeah, very good. All right, Kristen and Megan, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us here today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. We really enjoyed the time.
Likewise, we appreciate all of you in our audience for tuning in. Until next time, for Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.